Hello everyone, back at it again in my little yellow kayak. Just launched the kayak and I'm getting myself squared away here. We're going to be throwing that swim bait to start. We've got some storms coming in, some wind, some clouds. Really perfect conditions for throwing a swim bait. I'm throwing the Fish Lab Bio Shad in the shad color. To me it looks a lot like an alewife, and that's kind of what I'm trying to imitate here. Fishing a small pond. The reason I ended up here is because the storm is making a lot of other places unfishable, or at least they'd be tough to fish in the open kayak like this. My kayak would fill up with water. It would be very unpleasant. But I got a few hours before the storm catches up to me, and that's creating kind of ideal conditions in just the first couple casts with that wake bait, and I'm already on, and that tells me that the fish are active, that they want to chew. And if I just stick with it, I'm going to catch some bigger sized fish. So in the morning, they were really fired up. I mean, really fired up. And I could catch these fish on a lot of things. I could catch them on a whopper plopper. I've done that on different trips. You could catch them on a buzz bait, spinner bait, smaller wake bait, crankbait, that kind of thing. Nice fish to kick it off. But I'm trying to get an upsized bite fishing with a 6-inch wake bait. And it's 6 inches is nothing for a bass, but it's just a little bit bigger than your average crankbait, a little bit bigger than most other fishermen are going to throw. But it's small enough that you can throw it all morning and not wear out your shoulder, especially fishing in a kayak. And it's very reasonably priced. I think it's 20 bucks. And if you get it on sale, maybe you get it closer to 15, which in Swimbait world is cheap. I mean, really cheap. This is a very hostile pickerel. There's a lot of pickerel in this pond too. Some of them are quite good sized. I got my fish grips there. They save my fingers. Also keep me from getting hooks in me. So, especially if I've got a big pickerel on a bait with 2 big treble hooks, I'm going to be a little bit more careful so I don't get those hooks in my hand. Sometimes I'm a little less careful than I ought to be, but I'm still here fishing, so I must be doing something right. And he really got it too. Very angry, early morning. That kind of tells me a little bit about the fish's activity level too. You know, on a bright sunny day, I know at this pond, because I fished here before when it was bright and sunny, the fish will just bury themselves in the weeds, especially when it's calm. You can go right over them with a kayak. I can look over the side, I see a tail sticking out of the weeds. I go a little bit more, I see another tail sticking out of the weeds. They literally bury themselves in the weeds, and it's really hard to get them to feed. You need the right mix of conditions to get them into a chewing mood. Or, you know, especially if you're in those kind of conditions, you come back at night if you have the time, or you have insomnia, can't sleep. That's a good tactic to get those fish that won't eat on bright, sunny, calm days. You go after them at night. But I can't film at night, and I like to sleep, so I wait for these cloudy, overcast, stormy days, try to load the boat. Well, I've done pretty well with the largest size choppos and even the whopper ploppers on conditions like this too in the morning. To me, it's a very similar bait as a wake bait bite. You know, they're different baits, obviously. There's a lot more splash and sound with the whopper plopper and the chopo. But functionally, to me, it's a very similar bite, and I can kind of swap those baits in and out as I want. But I feel like I get a bigger bite on average, not every time, but on average with the wake bait. And I bet if I fished an even bigger wake bait, like the tactical bass and wake, that's a little bit bigger. I picked one of those up when it was on sale for 20 bucks, and I think that bait's going to do a lot of damage. I just need to get out when I have similar conditions as this, and I think I'm going to really smoke them. You saw just a glimpse of that. Sometimes when it first touches down, pretty much all the time when it first touches down, I'll give it a couple twitches, I'll twitch it in place. And you can almost walk the bait. It doesn't walk great, but you know, for a short distance you can walk it just a little bit back and forth. If you go too hard, sometimes it'll tangle on the nose. Those treble hooks wrap around the leader line on the nose, or the split ring, or the snap if you're fishing a snap, and ruin the cast. So don't go too hard. But the idea is that I'm literally calling fish out of the weeds towards the bait. And this works as long as you have good conditions. If you have, you know, sunny, calm conditions, they'll go the other way. They'll spook. You'll see them swirl and go the other way. So as long as you have good conditions like this. Also, it's not real warm. It's not that pleasant, but I have the whole place to myself. So a lot of times, like ideal fishing conditions also end up as being, you're going to have the whole lake to yourself conditions too. You know, a lot of other places near me, when I shot this video, they're not really fishable because of the wind. Some other places close by, it's raining cats and dogs, and there's just not a lot of people out fishing today because the forecast is lousy. There's a storm coming in, etc., etc. But that's the time, ideally, you want to get out and get some fishing in before the storm catches up to you. So anyway, that's what I'm doing here. This little guy went after that 6-inch bait, and it seems like it's not a deterrent for the small one. So by fishing a bigger bait, I'm not missing out on smaller fish or numbers or whatever. I'm still catching plenty of numbers, but I also feel like I have a higher percentage shot at bigger fish. And it's sort of a numbers game I'm playing here. Doesn't work all the time, but I feel like I have better odds of catching a bigger fish with a bigger bait. And so far it's working. I'm catching a bunch of pickerel too. I'm cutting most of them out of the video, especially the smaller ones. I got a couple big ones later on to show you though. That one went after it and he got a hook in the back. I'll get him free and on his way. Not bad, not bad. At a certain point in the morning, the swimbait bite just kind of died off for me. And it seemed to coincide with the wind slacking off. Got a little bit brighter. And the fish just didn't seem to be into it. I mean, they'll tell you if they're into it or not. And you know pretty quick. So anyway, I had to put the swimbait rod down for a little bit. And I picked up a fluke style bait. And it's the X-Zone 6-inch Whiplash Shad. Now this is a real snaky, eel-like fluke. And I've got it in the perch color. That's the only color that kind of makes sense to me in the lineup. You know, maybe I'll pick up a few other colors at some point. But the perch color is unique. It looks just like that. It's got a green back. It's got an orange belly. I don't know if they really think it's a perch. But it's I like the color, and it's two-toned, and it shows up well in this murky water. I've got murky water on this side of the pond. And it's just something different. It's something that the fish haven't seen a lot of. And like I said, the way it moves in the water, it's not so much bait fish-like. It's more eel-like, snaky-like. But the fish do seem to really like it. So I kind of took a big step down from a swimbait, a wake bait swimbait, to a fluke style bait, but it's still 6 inches. It's just a lot more subtle, and I'm able to go right back to catching fish. Now I threw that swimbait over a good portion of the pond, and I didn't catch a big one like this. So going to that Whiplash Shad, I was able to fool a bigger one like that. That's a 4-pounder. I put him on the scale. I think he went 4-1, something like that. I got to be careful holding them in the water. There's some big snapping turtles in here, and they'll come right up for a fish in the water like that. Nice fat belly on him. No, I really had the idea that the bigger fish would go for a bigger swimbait. Sometimes they just don't do what you want them to do, and you got to adjust and adapt. So, in this case, I had a couple extra rods with me in case the swimbait bite died, and I could go to something like the Whiplash Shad, or somebody else might fish a Senko. Personally, I don't fish them, but something like that. And then you can get right back on the bite. Now, if I was a diehard swimbait guy, I would just stick with that swimbait all morning and hope to get another quality fish. Maybe there'd be some little micro weather pattern which would get them to go again. But in my experience, the swimbait bite tends to be an early morning deal for me. And at a certain point, it kind of peters off, and then I'm going to swap to some other baits. Something more subtle, something I can trigger them with. A fluke style bait will trigger some of these fish that don't want to maybe get a bigger swimbait or go after a bigger swimbait, or maybe they've seen a bunch of bigger swimbaits. A place like this, they've seen a lot of lures. That's a nice pickerel. That one probably goes 4 too. I don't think I'm going to put him on the scale, but that's a big pickerel. He almost doesn't fit in my net. See if I can get the hook out without losing a finger here. Those big ones, they act almost like little pike. They feel like little pike, they fish like little pike, and they'll bite you like little pike too. Using the pliers. He's got me wrapped up in my net too, so I have to be a little bit careful. I think I decided to snip the line and then pull the hook out the other side. He's not hooked badly, it's just through the corner of his mouth really. And I don't want to let him go with the hook still in him. There he goes. Thanks for playing there, big pickerel. Yeah, that Whiplash Shad, it's a good bait. To me it doesn't look a lot like a herring or a shad or some kind of bait fish like that. To me it looks, well, it looks more like a leech or something in the water like that. Like I said, I don't know exactly what they think it is, but they definitely like it. And it's different, for a place where they've seen every color Super Fluke and every color Senko, it's something different. The other thing you can do with that Whiplash Shad is you can cast it out and let it sink. And sometimes they'll pick it up right off the bottom. It has a little bit of a shimmy on the fall, and then you can start working it. So if they're a little bit lethargic, a little bit slow, you can cast out, let it sink to the bottom. And in my head, I'm picturing a fish coming over and checking it out, inspecting it, looking at it. And then when it starts to swim away, you're working the bait away, darting, twitching, etc. And a big bass like this comes and picks it up. Now, he's not quite as fat, and he doesn't have the shoulders that other one did. I think he went 315, 314. I ended up putting that one on the scale too, just to check. But he's clearly not as big as that other one. I had the scale handy. Anyway, they're really liking that Whiplash Shad. 315, 314, 314. Yeah, I don't think you can see that on the video. It's going between 314 and 315. Nice bass. Thanks for playing. Now, if it started raining or something like that, or the wind picked up significantly, maybe I go back to that swim bait. Try to finish out the morning with the swim bait. Why is this catching bigger fish than the swim bait? I don't know. But the Whiplash Shad is working pretty well. Oh, the other thing about the Whiplash Shad, it's not very durable. Especially pickerel, they'll tear that thing up. So I'm going through them pretty quickly, and I save them, and I get a pile of them together, and then I'll go through them with Mend It some night. Use Mend It, the soft bait glue, to glue them all back together. Let them dry overnight. dry flat and straight. Make sure you dry them on a piece of cardboard or something, and make sure they're straight when they dry. I'll put them back in the bag, and they're pretty much good to go. Unless I get the tail cut off by a pickerel, or the whole bait cut off by a pickerel, I can keep a pack going for a really long time. I did a video on that soft bait plastic repair glue. Maybe I'll put it in the video description in case you missed that one. But that's a really handy tip. A lot of these baits that get hot for a while, they're hard just to get in stock. Sometimes, they're hard to find. And they're not cheap either. You keep going through it. If you go through a pack every morning, it adds up. $6-7 every morning, it adds up. So you could keep them going for a really long time with a little bottle of Mend It, and that's what I try to do. I was also fishing. You could see it just a little bit in the water. I know it's kind of hard to see. We don't have a lot of sunlight. But I was fishing on the outside of sunfish beds with the Whiplash shad. Now it's so skinny, so snaky, so leech-like that I don't think it really looks a lot like a sunfish at all. But the bass were all about hunting it down and eating it. So I was pretty happy with that. I picked off a few more fish, specifically fishing on the outside of sunfish beds. And they'll patrol those sunfish beds as the sunfish are spawning, not really paying attention because they're focused on spawning and reproducing and tending their nests. So the bass know that. They seem like they know that anyway, and they'll try to pick them off if they get careless. And so if you put the Whiplash shad through there, it looks like an easy meal. And they'll come up on it and suck it in. Even when they stop eating the Swimbait, they stop eating the Chopo, they stop eating a buzz bait, they slack off the spinnerbait bite, all that stuff, they'll still eat a Whiplash shad. So you can keep that bite going, that morning bite going until 9-10 o'clock anyway. Especially if you have good weather like this, windy, overcast, storm coming in, all that good stuff. All right, I think I'll wrap it up here. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. Just like all my other videos, I'll list all the gear in the video description so you can duplicate what I was doing out here today. Hopefully have some good success wherever you might be fishing around the country or around the world. I'll catch you on the next one. See ya!